Did you know that Friday was shot in just 20 days? Or during one late-night shoot, a group of real gang members actually showed up demanding money for using their street? And here's something crazier. Chris Tucker refused to return for the sequels because of his religious beliefs. Yeah, behind all the laughs, Friday had some seriously wild stories happening off camera. So let's dive into 21 weird facts about Friday you probably never knew. Number 1. The movie was born out of Ice Cube's real neighborhood. Before Friday became a cult classic, Ice Cube wanted to show a side of South Central Los Angeles that Hollywood never showed. The funny, human, and laid-back side of living there. He was tired of movies like Boys and the Hood and Menace to Society, only showing gang violence and tragedy. So he decided to make a film based on his real block, his real friends, and those crazy Friday hangouts, where people just laughed, argued, and told stories. Many of the characters in Friday, like Smokey, Debo, and even Big Worm, were based on real people Ice Cube grew up with. That's why the movie feels so authentic. It's practically a diary from Cube's past, just with more comedy and less danger. Number 2. The entire movie was filmed in just 20 days. You might not believe this, but Friday was shot in only 20 days, with an incredibly tight budget of around $3.5 million. Most Hollywood comedies take at least 2 to 3 months to shoot, but director F. Gary Gray and the crew had to race against time and money every single day. They filmed mostly on a real residential street in Los Angeles, using the same block for multiple different locations. It was so low budget that the production couldn't even afford trailers for most of the cast. Instead, many actors would rest inside nearby garages or under umbrellas between takes. Yet, despite that, the energy, improvisation, and chemistry made Friday look effortless on screen. Number 3. Chris Tucker's iconic lines were 90% improvised. Smokey's hilarious one-liners, like "I'm broke, man," weren't even in the script. Chris Tucker was known for his lightning-fast improv and high-energy delivery. Director F. Gary Gray realized early that Tucker's spontaneity was pure gold, so he just let the camera roll and told him to freestyle most of his dialogue. The result? Some of the most quotable lines in comedy history came straight from Tucker's brain in the heat of the moment. Ice Cube even admitted years later that half of Smokey's dialogue was never written. Tucker just made it up, and everyone went with it. Number 4. Bernie Mac's scene was almost cut entirely. The unforgettable scene where Pastor Clever flirts shamelessly with Mrs. Parker is one of the movie's funniest moments, but it almost didn't make it in. During editing, the producers thought Bernie's part was too random and didn't push the story forward. But after a few test screenings, audiences couldn't stop laughing at Bernie's sleazy charm. It got such huge reactions that the studio decided to keep it in, and it ended up becoming one of the film's most replayed moments. Ironically, this tiny scene helped launch Bernie Mac's Hollywood career, opening doors to The Bernie Mac Show and Ocean's 11. Number 5. Debo was actually terrifying on set. Tiny Lister Jr., who played the neighborhood bully Debo, didn't just act intimidating, he was intimidating. Even when cameras weren't rolling, Lister stayed in character between takes, often walking around shirtless and quiet, just staring at people. He wanted everyone to feel real fear during their scenes with him, especially Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. According to crew members, Tucker avoided Lister off camera because that dude really scared him, but it paid off. Debo became one of the most iconic villains in comedy history, proving that even in a lighthearted movie, a real sense of danger makes the laughs hit harder. Number 6. The movie was shot in a real gang neighborhood. Believe it or not, Friday wasn't filmed on a safe studio backlot. It was shot right in the heart of South Central Los Angeles, a neighborhood that still had real gang activity at the time. The crew was actually warned by locals not to film after dark. In fact, during one late shoot, a few real gang members showed up and demanded money for using their street. Rather than call the cops and risk shutting down production, the producers decided to pay them off with free food and small cash, just to keep the peace. Even Ice Cube admitted in interviews that every night, the crew would pack up before sundown because, as he put it, we didn't want real drama in our comedy. Number 7. Smokey's constant high wasn't just acting. Chris Tucker's character, Smokey, is constantly high throughout the movie. But here's the wild part. Chris Tucker didn't smoke weed at all in real life. Instead, to stay in character, he spent days observing how his friends moved, talked, and laughed while stoned. But the other twist, several background extras were actually high during the filming. Since it was shot in a real neighborhood, many locals hung around the set, and some joined the background scenes, still smoking their props. Director F. Gary Gray later said, "You couldn't tell who was acting and who was just really high. So technically, the smoky atmosphere you see in the movie was completely real." Number 8. The famous "Bye, Felicia" line was never supposed to be iconic. When Ice Cube's character says, "Bye, Felicia," it was meant to be a throwaway line, nothing more than a quick burn toward a minor character. But that 2-second insult somehow became a global cultural phenomenon. By the 2010s, it turned into one of the most viral memes of all time, used everywhere from TikTok to presidential campaigns. Ice Cube himself said he didn't even realize it had blown up until he started hearing people say it to him on red carpets. Ironically, the actress who played Felicia, Angela Means, said she never expected to become a pop culture legend for 1 minute of screen time. Number 9. Ice Cube originally wanted Chris Rock to play Smokey. Before Chris Tucker landed the role that made him a star, Ice Cube actually had another comedian in mind, Chris Rock. At the time, Rock was already famous for his stand-up work, and the producers thought his edgy humor would fit perfectly. But Rock turned it down, saying he wasn't sure about the weed comedy angle and didn't want to get typecast. The role then went to a young, unknown comic named Chris Tucker, and the rest is history. Later, Rock even joked in interviews that turning down Friday was one of the dumbest decisions of his career, since the movie became a cult classic. Number 10. The ice cream truck music was a real neighborhood signal. Remember Big Worm's ice cream truck with that creepy tune playing? That wasn't just a random prop. The song that played, a distorted, slow version of The Entertainer, was actually recorded live from a real ice cream truck that roamed the neighborhood where they were shooting. Locals said that specific sound always meant the weed man was nearby, not ice cream. So when Big Worm rolls through in his truck in the movie, it was more than just a joke. Number 11. The neighborhood reacted like it was a real movie set. One of the most amazing behind-the-scenes realities of Friday is that almost the entire film was shot on a real residential street in south-central Los Angeles, not a closed movie set. That meant, while Ice Cube, Chris Tucker, and the crew were filming, real residents were sitting on their porches watching the action unfold. Some locals even appear in the background, pretending to be extras just to get on camera. Director F. Gary Gray recalled that sometimes filming had to pause because kids would run through the shots, or neighbors would blast music during take. Rather than fight it, the production embraced the energy of the neighborhood, and that's part of what gave Friday its authentic, lived-in feel. Number 12. Bernie Mac's pastor role was inspired by a real local preacher. Bernie Mac's unforgettable role as Pastor Clever, the smooth-talking preacher with questionable morals, was based on a real-life South Central church figure. Ice Cube revealed that as a kid, he knew a preacher who acted holy in public, but was infamous for flirting with women in the neighborhood. So, Bernie Mac's character became a hilarious parody of that type of man, preaching purity while chasing temptation. In fact, Bernie improvised most of his lines, and crew members often broke into laughter off-camera, making it hard to finish his scenes in one take. Sadly, Bernie Mac passed away in 2008, but his brief appearance in Friday remains one of his most memorable comedic moments ever. Number 13. The movie's script was written in just 10 days. Ice Cube and DJ Pooh didn't just star in Friday, they wrote the entire script in about 10 days. At the time, studios weren't interested in funding a comedy about everyday life in the hood, without violence or gang wars. But Ice Cube wanted to change that narrative, to show that people in his community also laughed, joked, and lived normal lives. The writing process was so fast because both writers based most of the story on real events and friends from their youth. The Debo taking your bike scene, for example, actually happened to someone Ice Cube knew, only in real life, that guy never got the bike back. Number 14. The studio didn't believe it would be a hit. When New Line Cinema first saw Friday, they didn't think it would succeed. Executives thought it was too urban, too slow, and too small to attract mainstream audiences. They even considered sending it straight to video instead of a theatrical release. But when test audiences saw it, the laughter was so loud that studio executives changed their minds overnight. The movie went on to gross over $28 million, nearly 10 times its budget, and became a defining comedy of the 1990s. To this day, Ice Cube says that Friday taught him one lesson: don't ever let Hollywood tell you what people want to see. Number 15. Debo's bike chain was real. Tiny Lister Jr., who played Debo, the terrifying neighborhood bully, was so committed to his role that he kept his metal bike chain on at all times during filming. He said it helped him stay in character and reminded everyone on set that Debo's coming. Some cast members even admitted they were genuinely scared of him, especially during the intense close-up scenes. Ice Cube joked that no one dared prank Tiny Lister on set because Debo didn't turn off when the cameras did. That chain became such an iconic prop that after the movie, fans would bring real chains to autograph signings for him to sign. Number 16. Ice Cube's real family helped shape the movie. Ice Cube didn't just star in Friday. His real-life experiences heavily shaped its story. Many of the funniest or most heartfelt moments were inspired by people from his own family. For example, the character of Smokey was based on a cousin of Cube's, who was always high but never seemed to have any weed left. And the no-nonsense father character, Mr. Jones, was written after Cube's real dad, a man known for his sharp tongue and life advice. It's why Friday feels so genuine, because it came from real life, not just Hollywood imagination. Number 17. The director had to fight for Ice Cube's vision. Director F. Gary Gray was only 26 years old when he directed Friday, and studio executives didn't trust his youth. They wanted to make the film more like a typical gang movie, but Ice Cube fought hard to keep it a funny slice of life in South Central. Gray had to shoot certain neighborhood scenes without official permits just to preserve authenticity, making parts of the movie technically illegal guerrilla filmmaking. Number 18. The famous "Bye Felicia" line was improvised. One of the most iconic lines in Friday, "Bye Felicia," wasn't in the script at all. During filming, the actress Angela Means approached Ice Cube and asked to borrow something. Cube, staying in character, snapped back, "Bye, Felicia," with total annoyance, and everyone on set burst out laughing. Director F. Gary Gray instantly decided to keep it in the film, and that small improvised line went on to become a global meme decades later, used everywhere from Twitter to pop culture TV shows. Number 19. Chris Tucker refused to reprise his role for religious reasons. When Next Friday and Friday After Next went into production, fans were shocked to learn that Chris Tucker didn't return as Smokey. Many assumed it was about money, but in truth, Tucker later revealed he had become deeply religious and didn't want to promote smoking weed anymore. He said that as much as he loved the character, it didn't fit with who he had become. This left Ice Cube disappointed but respectful. And it's one of Hollywood's rare cases where a superstar walked away from fame out of personal conviction. Number 20. The famous kitchen scene almost got cut. The hilarious scene where Smokey refuses to give Craig any food, "Make it enough," was almost removed because the studio felt it slowed the pace. But Ice Cube and Chris Tucker begged to keep it in, saying it represented every broke friend moment ever. It ended up becoming one of the most relatable and quoted moments in the film's history. Number 21. The movie's legacy-inspired real community change. Despite being a low-budget comedy, Friday had a massive cultural impact, even inspiring community programs in South Central Los Angeles. Local leaders praised how the movie portrayed everyday life in the neighborhood without glamorizing violence. In the years after the movie's release, nonprofits started using Friday as a teaching tool about friendship, responsibility, and staying out of trouble. It's rare for a comedy to have that kind of real-world influence, but Friday did, turning laughter into lasting change.